Hello and welcome to another episode of Empower Your Menopause, the podcast where we dive deep into the topics that matter most to women navigating this incredible stage of life. I'm James Ellis, your host, joined by my fabulous co-host and business partner, Julie Madesi. Together we're here to help you reclaim your energy, confidence and sparkle. Now, those of you watching on YouTube will see there's a third window with us here today. And today I'm absolutely buzzing to bring you a conversation with someone who's not only an incredible athlete, but also a very good friend of mine. It's the lovely Laura Watts. Now, Laura is one of the UK's top female ultra runners. She's got an awe-inspiring track record. She's completed some of the world's toughest endurance events, including 3 finishes at the legendary Badwater 135. You can see she's wearing a Badwater t-shirt if you're watching this. She was the first British woman to do that. She's also completed the iconic Spartathlon and the Florida Keys 100. Now, Laura and I first met on the ultra running scene a couple of years ago, but we really got to know each other during Spartathlon, where we ran the last, I think it was about 60 miles, side by side. And then most recently I had the honour of actually crewing and buddy running her on her attempt at Badwater this year, where we did about 80 miles through the desert together. Let's just say we had plenty of time to chat on the road. So we're going to talk about Laura's incredible journey as an ultra runner, how she juggles her life as Virgin Atlantic cabin crew with training and racing, and the lessons she's learned along the way. Plus we're going to explore a little bit how she's navigating her health and hormonal changes as a woman in her 40s. So grab a coffee, lace up your trainers, or just settle in for what promises to be an inspiring chat. Welcome to the show, lovely, lovely Laura Watts.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So Laura, why don't you tell us a little bit, for those listening who don't know you, what's your story in a nutshell? Tell us a little bit about you.
So my name's Laura. I'm 47 years old. I live on the south coast, near Bognor Regis, in West Sussex with my husband Matthew, and we both work for Virgin Atlantic. I'm a flight service manager and he is a captain. And my other major passion in life, is, as you've just said, James, is running, especially ultra marathons.
So how did you get working for Virgin Atlantic, Laura, and what's the most exciting part of your job? You mentioned that Matthew is your husband and you obviously fly around the world together. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I love my job. I've worked for Virgin Atlantic for nearly 28 years now. And I started to join there just for a year, just to travel. But yes, 28 years later, I'm still there. But I just love the job. Every day is different. I love working with people, the crew I work with, and our customers on board. You know, I just love making people happy, making a massive difference to their journey and their experience. So, yeah, and I mean, I love my down route time as well. So every destination we fly to, because it's long haul, we always stay at least 24 hours. So I've always got an opportunity to go running in a really cool place in the world, which is a big plus for me, as well as the actual job that I do, that I love as well. And I fly with my husband, and a lot of people wouldn't want to work with their other halves, but yeah, we love working together as well. So we were down route, you know, we've always got, so we can do fun things together. So it's good.
That's so cool. So just out of curiosity, when did you first get into running? Like what made you decide to lace up a pair of running shoes and especially get into ultra running in particular? Because that's not a small thing to do.
Yeah, no, exactly. I basically ran at school. I was in the athletics team and the cross country team, but I didn't properly start running until I went to watch the London Marathon in 2002, and I was completely inspired by just watching how hard everyone was trying, and just I was at mile 20, and people were kind of hitting the wall, and I just thought, this is incredible. I want to be part of this. So then I literally went home that night, went for a run. I thought, right, next year I'm doing the London Marathon. Got myself a charity place, and yeah, and then the rest has been history, really. Throughout, like, say, in the 2000s, I was doing like 1 marathon a year, and then I got a bit more crazy and running 2 marathons a year. So I'd always like run, just sort of maybe doing 10k races or small, just training runs. But it wasn't until 2016 when I discovered ultra marathons. I'd never even knew these things existed. I didn't know how anyone could literally run one step more than a marathon, which I thought was the hardest thing ever. But I sort of heard about an ultra. It was 100 kilometres from London to Brighton, and I just thought, I want to have a go at that. What's the worst that can happen? I know I can run a marathon distance. If I have to walk it, and I signed up for it, and I absolutely loved it. It was just I loved the fact, well, you run first, well, when I first started running ultras, you know, I was running slower, I was walking up the hills, got to eat on the course. I thought, this is great, you get to eat. It's you know, and I did really well, you know, for my first one, and then I was like hooked on, you know, pushing myself and what the human body can achieve, basically.
Was there a point where you actually
Amazing.
said, right, that's it, ultras are my thing, I'm not really going back to anything much less than a marathon?
Yeah, I think probably when I started doing I mean, it wasn't all an easy journey, because say I did the 100K and that was great, and then I was a bit cocky. I thought, let's try 100 miles, you know, and but the first time I attempted 100 miles at the North Downs Way 100, I quit at 75 miles, because obviously 100 miles is a lot further than 100 kilometers, and you know, I didn't realize the highs and lows of ultra running. And you know, I was sort of, it was the middle of the night, I was cold, it was dark, you know, I was like, what am I doing? And you know, I with hindsight now, I could have walked, you know, just walked it out. Once daylight came, I would have felt so much better. And anyway, it was a learning experience, as every ultra really is. But once I completed a 100-mile race, then that was probably in 2017. From then on, I was always focused on ultras. I just love them. I love the community as well, the people you meet, and plus the feeling of achievement when you do finish an ultra marathon. It's incredible.
Oh, for sure. I know that exercise in general, but especially the people I know who run, because I've run a couple marathons myself, but I don't consider myself a runner. I'm more of a hiker cyclist kind of person. So um ha- but I do know a lot of people find that running helps with their mental health. Do you find that, and how does that play in for you?
Yeah, oh no, definitely. I mean, not many people probably would like know this, apart from like say my husband and my immediate family, is I have struggled with like mental health throughout the years, probably since when I was a teenager. You know, I've gone through periods of anxiety, depression. I've been on antidepressants, but running is that thing. Yeah, you're so right. The feeling you get from exercise, endorphins, even if you just think, I'll just do 10 minutes or I'll just do 20 minutes, it's just makes you feel, and you always do generally do a little bit more than that, you know, and you feel, honestly, you feel amazing from just sort of getting out there and having that time to think, be on your own, and just, I don't know what it is, it's the feeling of the endorphins way outpower than sort of negative energy that you're feeling at that time. So trouble is, sometimes it's just hard if you're in a low position, getting yourself out the door. But you know, it's generally exercise and running, anything outdoors, you feel great.
We've shared a
For
lot
sure.
of those highs and lows together on the road over the last year or so. Um, and it's almost like a microcosm at times, isn't it, of our own mental health. Is sometimes you're on a high when you're running, and sometimes you can be on an incredible low. You know, you and I were running through the desert at Badwater during the night, weren't we? And I think we were both on a massive lull at the time, struggling to get you to the finish there. So, what do you do then from a mental point of view that helps you navigate those sort of like ups and downs during a race?
Yeah, that's a good, no, it's a good question. I think the thing is, I breaking the race down into the smaller chunks is one thing I do. And I know now that these lows are not going to last forever. I know that yeah, I will ride through them, as you say, and just all I have to think about is I'm not finishing this race without getting my buckle or without getting my medal. You know, failure is not an option. So yeah, that's basically how I attack it, and just keep moving forward, just one step at a time.
I guess that's something that comes with experience then. The more you do, the more
Mm-hmm.
mentally resilient you've
Yeah,
become. Would that be right?
oh yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Like when I look back to say 2016, when I tried the North Downs Way 100, you know, I was really not clueless, but I wasn't mentally strong at all. I just, you know, now yeah, say the feeling of finishing is incredible, but like you said, parts of the race, like when in Badwater when we were together and I was throwing up. I mean, I still feel so bad about what you had to endure watching me, but you know, I had like literally no food in me, no water. but I just had to sort of suck it up and just think, okay, it's going to be, in 46 hours, for example, this will be over and I will be feeling on top of the world. But yeah, the mental toughness, that's why I find it incredible. Young, ultra running is generally not an older person, not saying I'm old, but when you see people in their 20s doing ultras, I think it's so amazing that they've got that mental. I probably didn't have it in my 20s, that sort of mental resilience.
Yeah, it feels as though
Sure.
you need to have had a little bit of an up and down time in life as well, doesn't it, to actually have that
Yeah.
mental resilience and fortitude, I think, to keep going. And you've clearly adapted that really well over the years.
Yeah, no, I think no, I think I have now. I mean, sometimes you're in a race and you think, oh God, this is horrendous. What's wrong? Why am I doing this? But then you just have to knock that negative thought out your head and just think, no, I'm really lucky to be doing this, because a lot of people, would never experience it, and no, I'm really really lucky to be able to run and have sort of the health to be able to do it as well.
On, talking about ups and downs and highs and lows, I mean, having to work on different shift patterns, which is not an easy thing to do, and plus you fly all over the world to so many different places. How do you fit running into such a demanding schedule?
Yeah, no, I mean, I sort of do have to try and listen to my body where I can, because sometimes, when you are jet lagged or you've hardly had any sleep, to drag yourself
Yeah.
out for a run can be like difficult. I am actually part time now at work, so um, I have like a
Okay.
52% contract, so I do have a lot more time like for running and stuff like that. But even so, the day I get home from work. If I land early in the morning and I've managed to have a few hours sleep, then I'll try and do like an easy jog or an easy, like maybe a hike on the tread or something like that. But sometimes if I'm really not feeling it, I will just leave it and I think, right, I'll start tomorrow afresh and do like a longer workout or maybe a double session if I feel particularly guilty about missing something. But I think, yeah, it can be hard, but I'm also trying to sleep when I can, and not trying to put too much pressure on sleeping, because what it's like. If you go, I'm rubbish if I go east and you can't sleep at night, and then you lay there and you're like tossing and turning, and in your head you're sort of getting a bit stressed, thinking, oh, my wake up call is going to come at 7 a.m. and it's now 3 and I haven't slept yet. And so it's I'm still not very good at it, but I try and relax and try and do some meditation and just think, oh well, what will I'll just just get on with it.
Yeah. One person who is obviously very good at it is Matthew, your husband. You mentioned him before. I know that when I was at Badwater with him, when there was a time when I took over the driving for a while and he got in the back and had a sleep, and he was just off in like seconds. And it must be something that you almost train yourself to do when you're working these sort of like crazy shift patterns, or you're piloting and you might get a rest break in the middle of a flight and things like that.
Yeah, no, he is a champion sleeper. I would love to have some of his what he's got to be able to sleep like that. Whereas, yeah, I'm not such a great sleeper.
Yeah. So with
Yeah.
some of the things you just talked about there, this idea that although you're working part time now, you can be in one place one day and then a couple of days later you're somewhere else. How can you actually organise a training schedule around that? Is there a typical training week for you, or is there no such thing as a typical week, given that you're
Yeah,
cabin crew as well?
yeah, no, you're right. I generally sort of look at the week because I don't have a coach. I am a bit of I do wing it a bit, but yeah, I'll look at the week and just see what days I've got sort of available, and I'll try and sort of do a speed session, which I generally am doing on my Peloton tread at home. So I just find it so much easier to do like a HIIT class or an intervals class when you've got an instructor telling you. So I'll do like one of them. And depending on the race coming up, I've normally try and do like a couple of either a marathon at the weekend or a marathon Saturday, a marathon Sunday. If I'm off, I try and swap my flights around as well so I can get to these marathons, which rather than doing a 20-mile training run, I kind of like to go and do a marathon at these there's quite a few events near me, and they're so friendly. They're timed events where it's a 7-hour event, and you either do one lap, you get a medal, that's say 5k, or you could do 8 laps, which is a marathon, you still get the same medal, or you could even go further, you could run for the whole 7 miles. But I quite like to go to them. I know I'll get a medal, and it motivates me a bit more. See some running friends as well. But yeah, I just sort of look at the week ahead and just will pencil in what I'm planning to do. But sometimes obviously it doesn't go like that, and you just have to adapt.
Sure. When you've been
Sure.
traveling around, do you have a favorite place out of all these places that you've visited to run then? I mean, I look at your Instagram feed sometimes, Laura, and I'm absolutely amazed. You know, one day you're in New York, the next you'll be in LA, the next you'll be somewhere else, and you know, loads of pictures of you grinning and looking rather athletic in locations that aren't the south coast of England.
Yeah, not downtown Bognor Regis. No, yeah. So no, I got I do a lot of American flights, which I love. I mean, you can't beat running in New York. I love like running down the Hudson, and you could just run for miles. I've run down the Hudson, go over the Brooklyn Bridge, um, anywhere to get a photo opportunity. But literally every place we go to, really, apart from when we fly to India, where you can't really run outside there. It's a bit crazy with the traffic, and they don't really advise us going outside. And Lagos in Nigeria is another place we're not actually allowed to leave the hotel, so I have to go into the gym in those locations. But I mean, literally everywhere, like Washington, I just did a really cool run. I ran into where the National Mall is, to the Congress and the Capitol building. I mean, LA, you got the Hollywood Hills, Miami, Key Biscayne. I'm very lucky to have some cool place. Boston, I like run along the Charles River up to Harvard University. So I'm always looking when I get my roster, where can I run? And so try and find some new. But even like Cape Town, not that I haven't been there for a couple of years, but Cape Town's a beautiful city to run in as well. Absolutely gorgeous.
Nice. So, out of curiosity, what if somebody, if there's a woman over 40 who's thinking, "Wow, this all sounds really cool," if maybe they want to start running, what tips would you give them, especially because they might be feeling a little intimidated? Oh, I'm starting so old, and what do I do?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're never too old. I mean, I've never tried it, but I know a lot of people have rave about Couch to 5K, and also online you can find quite a few training plans. But what I'd say, if you did want to just get yourself some trainers and just maybe try run for a minute, walk for 4, and just repeat that 5 times. Literally as simple as that, or whatever you feel. Whatever someone would feel comfortable doing, or maybe just think, right, I'll just try and run for a mile, or just gonna, run to the end of the road, and then it's amazing. You just gradually, doggy-sized chunks, just gradually build up. If you could do a mile, then you could do that 1.5 miles, or if you've got a friend, maybe go to a park run, because that's all. They're always really inclusive. Doesn't People walk park run, so you can, you've got the guys that are sprinting at the front of the pack, and you've got, the people walking it. There's something for everyone. Or even if you felt confident signing up for like a 5K race in 6 months time, just look at it. Don't look at the big whole picture of sort of running, but just build up really slowly, and or maybe in the gym. So it's harder at this time of year now because it's getting dark at 4 o'clock, and I know a lot of people don't really want to go out running in the dark. So if you are tied to having to run after work, maybe go to the gym and get on the treadmill, and again do the same thing, just sort of, or even hiking, or put the tread at an incline and do just movement in general. And it'll be amazing if you think you can't run, but just starting slowly. I think anyone can, obviously not everyone, because some people have got knee problems, and but that's what the bike's for, or swimming. But yeah,
Sure.
go for it, I'd say.
When you actually graduate onto the longer stuff, then Laura, how do you actually stay energized? Because it's a long ways now. I know you mentioned eating on the go before, but for people who are looking at sort of like maybe extending their running capabilities and going sort of like beyond half marathons into marathons and potentially trying ultras out, do you have any tips around that? Sort of like feeding strategies or energy levels?
Yeah, I mean, nutrition isn't really my strong point. I'm not the best at nutrition, but I would, I've got all the advice that I don't take myself. But I definitely say, obviously eating a really just, a balanced diet normally. Having a, I either have sort of a jacket potato or pasta sort of the night before. But trying out different gels. I mean, obviously gels are really popular. I personally really just like the traditional jelly babies. I was talking to a guy at Precision Hydration who are they do, you know, electrolytes and different gels and things like that. And he did say if you just have like a palm full of jelly babies, I think that's the same as having a gel, or I think that's about 30 grams of carbs. But or whatever, you know, whatever you can tolerate, but try it on your training runs. Just take out a little bag of jelly babies or Haribos, or, you know, try a couple, go online and try a couple of gels and just see what, you know, works for you. But definitely try it in the training. But I mean, some people, you know, will have like, I mean, I don't like bananas, but bananas are really popular. Flapjacks, any, you know, I just think it's all about trying and just whatever works for you, and just don't try it new on, if you were to try it on a race day.
So it's a case of trial and error then, really, isn't it? I guess when it comes to those kind of things, working out what works for you individually.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I mean, that's the thing. We're all different, and there is no sort of science. Just whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So, just one fun question. What's one piece of running kit that you just can't live without? What's your favorite bit?
Oh, that's yeah, that is a really good question. Oh, well, I mean, obviously my Garmin watch is, I just can't go because, you know, if I haven't recorded it, I know it's quite traditional, but I do love to see my distance, you know, and then go obviously translating it onto Strava, because if it doesn't go on Strava, it didn't happen. But I do have another piece of kit which is a slightly obscure. It's some nappy rash cream, which I can't live without on ultras now, because I did, when I was at Badwater a couple of years ago, I think I got about 70 miles and I went to the toilet, and I'm sorry to be graphic, but my bottom had a bit of a rash on it and it was quite sore, and I was like, oh God. Anyway, one of my crew at the time, Brian, he's like, oh, you've got to try this. So some American nappy rash cream called Desitin. So that was a game changer. And I've since learned, you know, if you're running a race in a humid place, you can put it on your feet because it creates like a waterproof barrier. So that's another, that between that and my Garmin are my two.
Your two go-tos.
I live without.
Yeah.
I think
I can relate.
I think I probably know the answer to my next question, Laura. You've done some incredible stuff. You've finished the Keys 100 a couple of times. You've done Spartathlon. You've done Badwater 3 times now. Which is the standout memory or particularly tough time that you've had that really sort of like stays with you, that you're really proud of out of all the amazing runs that you've done?
That is such a difficult question, because they've all meant so much, and every like ultra has been so difficult. I mean, Spartathlon, finishing that for the fact of the distance, there's 75 timing checkpoints which you have to obviously get through, and being, you know, not the fastest of runners, it was like a real challenge. And that, you know, getting to the finish line and kissing the feet of King Leonidas was the most incredible feeling. But again, Badwater, I mean, it's got my heart in Death Valley. It's so tough. It's you know, it's the heat. It's, you know, we've experienced temperatures of 50 degrees, like 126 degrees Fahrenheit. And the fact last year when I was just couldn't stop being sick, you know, and that was it was so tough. I just kept having to like just grind it out. And then the sense of achievement there was incredible. Spartathlon and Badwater, two equals. I find it so difficult to decide.
Yeah.
The difference.
Just to clear it up for people who are listening, yes, Badwater's 135 miles across Death Valley, right?
In July.
In July, and what's the time limit that you've got to do it?
So you have, I think it's 48 hours to finish Badwater. It crosses 3 mountain ranges, and yeah, it's also known as the world's toughest foot race. But yes, Spartathlon is 153 miles, but you only have 36 hours to do that. So you've got to do 20 miles more a Spartathlon, and you have like 12 hours less time. So it's really tough.
But not the heat is not as much there, right, as it would be in Badwater.
Yeah.
When you've finished races like those, I mean, depending on which ultra runner you speak to, and there's a debate in the ultra running community about, which is the tougher of the two. You've done both of them, I suppose. So, given you've done the two of the toughest foot races in the world, where do you go? Where do you go after that? What can you do next? I mean, do you still have ambition, or are you kind of like topping out now? I've done the toughest of the toughest.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I'd just like to go back and do the toughest a few more times. Yeah, they are like. I mean, when I look back, when I started my ultra running journey, never in a million years would I have ever dreamt that I'd have been able to even been invited to Badwater or achieved a qualification standard to get to Spartathlon. I just never would have believed that was possible. So they are like two such incredible races with the whole camaraderie you've got between the runners. With the Spartathlon race, you're part of the British Spartathlon team, which is just amazing, and Badwater's got a massive Badwater family of people that go back year after year, either volunteering or crewing, etc. So I don't know, other races, I mean, I did used to want to do UTMB, but I'm not so good with the mountains. I mean, I wouldn't turn down doing UTMB, but it's difficult to get into now because you've got to do one of their sort of qualifying races, which I don't have sort of lined up. But I definitely would like to go back to do Badwater again. I'd love to go back to Spartathlon again. And I'm just trying to think. There's a race in America called Leadville. It's up at call it the race across the sky, because I think it's all at quite high altitude. So I'm quite tempted with that as something different. Western States, so that was another one I'd like to do. But really, next year I'd love to do Badwater and Spartathlon again.
So for people listening with their mouths ajar at some of these things that you've already achieved, give us a little bit more detail about UTMB. What is it? And Western States, what is it? Leadville, what's the distance like? How do they all compare to each other, those three races?
Oh yeah, sorry. So yeah, so UTMB is starts in Chamonix, and it's called the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, and it basically goes through three countries: France, Italy, and Switzerland. And it's got loads of elevation. I think I always get my feet and meters muddled up. I think it's 10,000. Is it 10,000 feet or 10,000 meters? It's like loads of elevation, but it's absolutely beautiful. And I did actually attend that race in 2019, but I broke my toe, so I didn't finish it. That's a long story. I won't bore the listeners with that. But the start line, there's like 2,000 people on the start line. It's absolutely incredible. It's a huge race. Chamonix is like buzzing at that time of year. They have different races going on. So it's 100 miles long. Leadville's 100 miles. I think it's a 50-mile out and back, but it is up at the altitude, which is a big challenge, and I think that's got quite hard cut-offs as well. And Western States is a really, really famous race in America. It starts in a place called Squaw Valley, and that's another 100-mile race. Just it's very difficult to in. Everyone wants to do that race. I think they have like 400 places, but you've got to have done certain qualifying races to give yourself a ticket to get in into that race. So yeah, that would definitely, it looks just incredible race with loads of like really amazing runners there, and just
so is it more a case of checking off some other iconic races then? Because you've done 153 miles, you've done 135 miles 3 different times across Death Valley. These are just little 100-milers. That's just a walk in the park for somebody like you, isn't it?
Oh no. Honestly, every 100-mile race is so difficult. I've actually got one on the 11th of December. It's called the Winter Downs 100. So it's in the south of England. It's 100 miles. It starts in Amberley in West Sussex. It goes along the South Downs Way for about, I think, 40 miles, joins the St Swithun's Way for about 30 miles, and then the North Downs Way for another 25 miles. But I'm kind of a bit worried about it because it's going to be dark at 4. We're not going to get much daylight. It starts at 2 in the afternoon. So first day, 2 hours of daylight. I've done a couple of recce's this week. It's so muddy. Like, when there's tractor ruts, it's so difficult to run on. It's slippery. I fell over the other day in broad daylight. So God knows what I'm going to be like, in the dark. So I know 100 miles, I think, is a distance to be respected. It really, every 100-mile race is difficult, even though I know it isn't as long as 153 miles. It's tough. It's going to be tough. It's going to be brilliant. But
It always makes me laugh when people say to me about my running, "Oh, marathon must be really easy then." And you think 26.2 miles is still a
no,
long way to
yeah,
run, isn't it? And you're
exactly, and
trying to go
especially
faster as well. Yep. So
yeah, it's road marathons hurt when you're really pushing yourself. It's like I think I'd rather almost run like a I don't know a 50k ultra kind of slowly than a road marathon because it's really difficult. It hurts and it's tough. So yeah, even I did the Bognor Regis 10k in May and it nearly killed me. It was one of the worst races I've ever done, and it was 10k. I had to stop and walk halfway, and this man turned around and said, "Oh, keep going, love," like it was my very first race. I mean, I didn't want to say I've actually run like 180 marathons, but I'm just not very good at going fast. So yeah, I think every race is a tough one.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you talked about that first 100-mile race that you did thinking, oh yeah, I've done 100K, I can do this. So if you could go back and give advice to your younger self as a new runner, what would that be?
I just say, I mean, just say never give up. Just never give up unless you are, going to be taken to hospital. Just try and keep moving forward, and the lows will pass. And just, even if you have to take a walking break, depending on if no matter what distance you're running, even if you're running out for half an hour, if you need to have a couple of minutes walk, reset, and then keep going again, but just keep going, keep moving forward, and just visualize the prize, the glory of getting that medal, being able to tell everybody what you've done and how proud you be of yourself, what you've achieved. So just got the feeling of the next day of disappointment when you think, oh, I could have actually finished that, it's outweighed by a bit of pain. And what we suffer in, for enjoyment is some people are suffering in when they're poorly, and we're doing this because we want to be here, we paid to be here. So just try and always keep smiling as well.
Just to start rounding off then, because we're coming up to our half-hour ideal show limit, Laura. Do you mind sharing a little bit about where you are on your own journey with your hormones, and also how do you find running has impacted or is impacting on your sort of like general overall health? Do you feel as it puts you in a good place?
Yeah, I mean, definitely running definitely puts me in a good place mentally, and physically. It's so funny because I've been thinking about the menopause because recently I'm at that age where I'm thinking, should I be experiencing symptoms? And there's so much online. There is so much information, but there's almost too much information. And then I'm getting I do feel a bit overwhelmed sometimes thinking if I'm, wake up in the night, if I have a night sweat, I'm like, is that part of the menopause or is that just because I'm hot? Or is there it's really it sounds silly, but you sort of think, am I thinking I'm experiencing symptoms? Or but basically, just quickly, I was taking the pill for many years, and just this year I decided I don't want to take the pill anymore. I thought, I'm 47 years old, I just don't want to be putting a hormone in my body. I just decided to stop taking it, and spoke to my doctor, and she suggested I should carry on taking the pill. She's recommended one with high level of estrogen just to keep my estrogen level topped up. But I haven't started. I have got it, but I haven't taken it because I just feel like I just don't want to be putting something in my body. But I haven't had a period, so but I didn't really have periods with the pill, so I'm kind of thinking I don't. No, and the doctor did say to me as well, it does take about 6 months for your ovaries to reset after you've stopped taking the pill. So I'm in that stage at the moment where, and I asked her if I could have a test about the menopause, but she said no, because if I was under 45 or if I was experiencing really strong symptoms, I'd be able to. So I'm just really unsure. I mean, I do feel I have these mood swings, which I say, as I said earlier, I probably had since I was a teenager. So that's probably just me. I don't know whether, but then you're like, is that the menopause? Is that not? And I do sometimes wake up in the night and I can't get back to sleep, which I know is, a symptom. But then I'm like, is that jet lag? Is that so? There's always like one side of me thinking, is it possibly signs of the menopause starting, or then other thing, is that just lifestyle? Or so I'm really not sure.
I don't think it's
Yeah.
unusual for women to have some confusion about where they
Mm.
are, because it is such a fluid journey, and particularly someone like yourself, as you said, you've got so many other factors that could be playing into what could be symptoms. So you're exactly right. is a sleepless night a sign of being menopausal, or is it just a sign that you had a long haul flight a couple of days beforehand and you're still catching up? So yeah, I think it's really interesting that you're in a place where you're still unsure yourself, and I don't think that's uncommon at all. Julie, I'm not sure whether you've got any thoughts on that.
Well, and as you said, Laura, the fact that there's so much information online, the difficulty with that is not only does it feel overwhelming, but what do you believe? Because there's a lot of it that is conflicting. So how do you know what's the right information and what's silliness out there? So it is a very individual journey, since every woman experiences it differently, and you have so many demands on your body through all of the things that you're doing. It would seem right that it's a little bit confusing, because I think it's confusing generally, because nobody prepares us for this, right? We don't have the talk like we did before puberty.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, no, I spoke to my mum yesterday and I said I was coming on to chat to you guys. And then she said she was 50 when she started her symptoms, but all she got was hot flushes. So I don't know whether it, if hereditary, if you sort of follow. So I know we're all different. But I mean, again, I didn't start my periods till I was 17, which I was quite a late developer. So again, I don't know if there's any formula in, will you have menopausal symptoms later, or who need a crystal ball?
Yeah, I do think women tend to mirror somewhat immediate family members from my experience. I'm not sure there's any research into the genetics of it, whether your mum has a late menopause, whether the daughter will have one as well, but anecdotal experience at least tells me that it's similar. I mean, I only have to look at my wife Laura and our twins. They both started menstruating. All three of them started menstruating at a similar age. So there's obviously something similar going on there from a family perspective. Okay, so I think we're just about to wrap up then, Laura. But before we go, I know Julie's got a last question that she wants to ask you. But just before we go, people want to find out more about you. Where can they go? Where can they see your achievements? Where can they keep up with what you're doing?
Oh, well, you can find me on Instagram at Laura_running_girl, or on Strava, Laura Watts. But yeah, anyone who's got any running questions, or anything, just please send me a message. It's my favourite subject, and I'd love to help anyone. If I can inspire one person to get out there and start running, makes me so happy. So yeah, just go for it.
Yeah. Well, I think you've certainly inspired quite a few of our listeners today, or I'm sure you will have done. It's certainly been inspiring chatting to you, to hear about all your amazing experiences. It's just phenomenal. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have seen it close up and see that drive and determination you have. I know Julie was very excited about getting the chance to chat to you and dig a little deeper into what it is that makes you tick and stuff. So thank you so much for coming on. Julie, what was your last question that you wanted to ask Laura then?
I know you mentioned that sometimes sleep can be elusive, but I'm wondering, after a grueling race or a long haul flight or something that you find really taxing on your body, how do you unwind and recover? And then, just for fun, what's your favorite treat?
Oh, so yeah, after a race, a very long race, I do find it hard to sort of sleep after, even though you're really suffering from sleep deprivation. I do find it hard sometimes laying there with restless legs, and it probably like the day after that I have like the more power sleep. And it's the same with work. I get back from work and oh God, I just have the best sleep sort of after a night flight. But I just unwind, just sort of, I don't know, just I like just lay on the settee and just with my hot water bottle in the winter. But my favourite, I mean, I do love a glass of champagne after a race. It's I do love, a glass of champagne and maybe some dirty food. It's my treat. But obviously a massage. If I've actually started. Yeah, no, a massage is also something which is just makes you feel so nice.
Massage, champagne, and a little bit of dirty food. It sounds like the perfect ending to
Yeah,
a race to me.
exactly. Just have to run 100 miles to get all that.
Fabulous. Okay, Laura, thank you very much for coming on. Just before you go to, and before listeners shut off, just to let you all know that Julie and I still have a few of our free sessions to offer in November and early December. We're offering, we started off with 40 free sessions to give away. We've still got a few left. So if you are interested, please visit freecall.fabulousbeyond40.com. We'll put that in the show notes as well, along with all the details of where you can catch up with the very, very amazing Laura Watts. So Laura, thanks so much again for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been great chatting to you. Thank you.
Yes.